Joey Metheny, the killer who made his victims into burgers. Though police only connected him to three murders, Joseph Roy Metheny claimed to have slaughtered a total of 13 victims, some of whom he allegedly turned into patties that he sold to unwitting customers on a Baltimore roadside. When the police arrested Joey Metheny for assault in December 1996, they expected him to put up a fight. The 6 foot 1 inch 450-pound lumber worker apparently had a tendency to fly off the handle. At a very least, they expected some resistance. What they didn't expect to hear was a detained and upfront confession, the brutality of which shocked the police, especially when Metheny added, "I am a very sick person." In his confession, Metheny described to police how he viciously raped, murdered, and dismembered sex workers and people who were homeless. However, these victims just serve as a substitute for his one intended victim, his runaway girlfriend. Then Metheny confessed to his most disturbing crimes. Not only did he himself eat some of the victims' flesh, but he served it to the other unknowing people as well. Joey Metheny had always been a rough. He endured a childhood of neglect with an absent alcoholic father and a mother forced to work extra shifts to support her children. They lived in Exeter near Baltimore. Not many other details are known about his younger years, but his mother says he joined the army in 1973 when he was 19. They lost touch after that. He just kept drifting further and further away. I think the worst thing has ever happened to him was drugs, she said. Upon leaving the army, Metheny worked blue collar jobs in lumber yards and as a truck driver. They came after the incident that sparked his desires for revenge. In 1994, Joey Metheny was living with his girlfriend and their 6 years old son in South Baltimore. As a truck driver, he was on the road of long stints at a time. One day he came home to find his girlfriend gone along with their child. Like Metheny, she had a drug addiction, and Joey believes she left with another man and took to living on the streets with him. He flew into a rage. He spent days looking for them, checking halfway houses and even under a certain bridge where he knew his wife used to buy and do drugs. Under the bridge, he found not his wife but two homeless men whom he believed knew her. When they gave no indication that they knew where his family was, he killed them both with an axe he had brought along. Immediately afterward, Metheny alleged noticed a fisherman nearby who could have seen what he had done. In such case, he had Metheny killed him too. Some people deem these first three killings crimes of passion, though he had later developed a taste for murder. As soon as he realized what he had done, Metheny picked and tossed the bodies into the river to hide the evidence. He did some closure to his son's whereabouts, saying, "I found out 6 months later she had moved on the other side of town with some asshole that had her out selling herself for money and drugs. They got busted for drugs and they took my son away from them for child neglect and child abuse." Police arrested Metheny for the murders of two men under the bridge and he spent a year and a half in a country jail awaiting trial. However, he was acquitted of any charges and he had dumped their bodies in the nearby river and investigators could not find them. He met Maggie Ziner at a bar in 1994 and lured her back to his home to at a small trailer in a storage lot in Baltimore. He told police that he had sex with her and then strangled her and buried her in a shallow grave on a lot. He beheaded remains were later found on the property. According to reports, Metheny claimed in a jailhouse confession that he butchered the bodies of Magaziner and Spicer and sold the meat in a roadside stand. I had real roast beef and pork sandwiches, and why not? They were very good, he wrote. The human body tastes was very similar to pork. If you mix it together, no one can tell the difference. He claims were never proven by police. Without physical evidence tying him to the crime, Metheny went free. He resumed his original quest of seeking out his missing wife and child, but this time something was different. Though he had spent a year and a half awaiting his trial, jail time had clearly done nothing to show Joey Metheny down. Shortly after being released, Metheny murdered two sex workers when they failed to provide him with information on his missing girlfriend. This time, however, he had a better idea for disposing of their bodies. Instead of tossing them in the river, Metheny brought the bodies home. Then there he dismembered them and stored in a meatiest part of them in Tupperware container. What didn't fit in his freezer, he buried in a truck lot owned by the pallet company he worked for. It seemed that he was now murdering people for sport as much as for revenge. Over the next several weekends, he mixed the sex workers' flesh with beef and pork, forming it into a neat little patties. He would sell these meat patties out of a small barbecue stand he opened on the side of the road. During this time, his customers would all consume bits of human flesh. They become unwitting hiding spots of their bodies of Metheny's victims. Wherever he needed more special meat, Metheny would simply venture out and find another sex worker or a vagabond. He later told police that he received no complaints on the meat tasting funny. In fact, no one seemed to notice that his burgers had a little something extra in them. The human body tastes very similar to pork. He said, if you mix it together, no one can tell the difference. Joey Metheny was finally caught in 1996, where he would be victim called named Rita Kemper managed to escape his clutches and ran straight to the police. During his interrogation, Metheny willingly offered up a confession. He gave details about each of his murders, even mentioning the murder of the fisherman from several years before. According to his confession, he killed 10 people, and authorities say there is no reason to believe he would have stopped there and they had not captured him. Eventually, a jury found him guilty and sentenced Metheny to death. The only thing I feel bad about in any of this is I didn't get to murder the two motherfuckers I was really after, he said. And that's my ex-Ole lady and the bastard she who got hooked up with, he said in his trial. In 2017, guards found Metheny unresponsive in his cell at the Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland at about 3 p.m. They pronounced him dead shortly after, thus ending his horrifying saga. Thank you, viewers, for staying till end. Hope you all enjoy the show. I will bring more such real crime stories that let you aware of some horrifying cases and learn the consequences that may happen with anyone around. Stay safe. Till then, goodbye, friends.